Politicians see only surface. Ted Kennedy, Senate lion, social reform champion, believes boxing promotes violence in society. He calls it a barbaric sport that corrupts youth. Sitting down with Joe Frazier for 15 minutes. What is real boxing? Community building, discipline, character development, violence prevention tool. The senator discovers boxing isn't the violence problem, it's the violence solution. 15 minutes later, Kennedy becomes boxing's strongest political advocate. Washington, D.C., March 1977. Saturday afternoon, Kennedy family compound, McLean, Virginia. Rolling hills, manicured lawns, American political royalty estate. The kind of property where policy gets discussed over dinner, where Senate votes get decided during weekend conversations. Ted Kennedy is hosting a charity event for underprivileged youth programs. Liberal senator, social justice champion, Kennedy legacy bearer. Passionate about helping disadvantaged communities, protecting children from exploitation, creating opportunities for poor families. The guest list includes celebrities, politicians, social activists, everyone committed to youth development, education funding, community programs, serious people doing serious work for serious causes. Joe Frazier is attending as a celebrity guest, heavyweight champion, Philadelphia legend, but also a community advocate. He runs youth programs in North Philadelphia, teaches discipline through boxing, uses the sport as a violence prevention tool. He's uncomfortable in the political environment, prefers the gym to government buildings, training young fighters to debating policy. But he believes in helping kids, willing to attend events that raise money for programs. Kennedy notices Joe immediately. Recognition mixed with concern. Boxing champion means violence association, exactly what Kennedy wants to eliminate from society. Kennedy approaches diplomatically. Joe Frazier, honor to meet you. Thank you for supporting youth programs. Joe extends his hand respectfully. Senator Kennedy, pleased to be here. Important cause. Indeed, Kennedy continues, protecting young people from harmful influences, creating positive alternatives to violence. It's a loaded comment. Joe senses the underlying criticism but remains polite. That's what I try to do in Philadelphia, Joe responds. Your community work is admirable, Kennedy says, but I have to be honest about my concerns regarding boxing's influence on youth. Direct approach, no political dancing. Kennedy believes in addressing issues head-on. What concerns specifically? Joe asks calmly. Boxing promotes violence as entertainment. Children see fighters hurting each other for money, learn that violence solves problems, gets rewards. Kennedy's perspective is shaped by Senate hearings, media reports, academic studies linking sports violence to social violence. I understand the concern, Joe says diplomatically. We're trying to reduce violence in communities, especially poor neighborhoods. Boxing seems counterproductive to that goal. Kennedy genuinely believes this. He sees boxing as an obstacle to social progress, a barrier to peaceful conflict resolution. Senator, can I share a different perspective? Of course. Boxing, when taught properly, actually prevents violence. Kennedy raises an eyebrow. Counterintuitive claim from a professional fighter. How so? Kids learn discipline, respect, consequences. They channel aggression into structured activity instead of street violence. But they're still learning to hit people. They're learning control. When to fight, when not to fight, how to handle conflict without losing control. Kennedy listens, but remains skeptical. Academic reports suggest the opposite conclusion. Studies show a correlation between violent sports and aggressive behavior. Studies show correlation, not causation. Boxing doesn't create violent kids. It saves violent kids. Strong claim. Kennedy wants evidence. Can you elaborate? Kids in my gym come from streets where violence already exists. Drug dealers, gangs, poverty frustration. Boxing gives them an outlet, teaches discipline, provides father figures. Kennedy considers this. Different angle than academic studies. But surely teaching fighting skills increases violence potential. Opposite. Kids who know they can fight don't need to prove it. Confidence prevents fights, doesn't create them. Interesting psychological perspective Kennedy hadn't considered. And the brutal nature of boxing? Head trauma, injury? Professional boxing is different than youth training. We teach fundamentals, conditioning, respect. Safety is always the priority. Kennedy is still concerned. But the ultimate goal is harming opponents. The ultimate goal is self-improvement. Competition just measures progress. How do you measure self-improvement in boxing? Discipline, work ethic, respect for training, ability to take instruction, perseverance through difficulty. Kennedy is surprised by the educational focus rather than violence emphasis. These are valuable qualities, Kennedy admits. Boxing teaches them faster than classroom lectures. Because of the physical challenge? Because consequences are immediate. Don't train properly, you lose. Don't listen to your coach, you get hurt. Don't respect your opponent, you learn humility. Kennedy is beginning to see a different framework. Boxing as character education, not violence promotion. Senator, can I ask you something? Certainly. You want to help kids from poor neighborhoods? Absolutely. That's my life's work. Those kids face real violence every day. Gangs, drugs, street fights they don't choose. Kennedy nods. Urban violence is a major concern. Boxing gives them a choice. Channel energy into positive competition instead of destructive behavior. But isn't that just redirecting violence? It's transforming violence. Street fighting has no rules, no safety, no purpose. Boxing has structure, protection, goals. Kennedy sees the distinction but remains concerned about promoting fighting. What about kids who aren't naturally violent? Doesn't boxing make them more aggressive? Boxing doesn't make people aggressive. It teaches control over the aggression everyone already has. You believe everyone has violent tendencies? Everyone has competitive instincts, survival drives, fight-or-flight responses. The question is how you channel them. Kennedy considers this psychological perspective, and boxing channels them positively? When taught properly, yes. Kids learn when aggression is appropriate, when it's not, how to control it. What does taught properly mean? Respect for opponents, coaches, rules, understanding that boxing is a tool for self-development, not a weapon against others. Kennedy is intrigued by the educational framework. Can you give me a specific example? Kid named Marcus, 15 years old, angry at the world, getting into street fights weekly. I brought him to the gym. What happened? First month, he wanted to hit everyone as hard as possible. I taught him technique, conditioning, respect. How did you teach respect? Paired him with an experienced fighter who controlled him easily. Showed him that skill beats aggression. Anger makes you stupid. Kennedy is listening carefully now. Marcus learned that fighting smart means fighting less. Confidence replaced anger. And his street fighting? Stopped completely. He realized he didn't need to prove his toughness to anyone. Had nothing to prove. Real example is more convincing than theoretical arguments. That's one success story. What about failures? Some kids can't handle the discipline. They leave. Boxing doesn't work for everyone. Honest admission. Kennedy appreciates the transparency. But for the kids, it does work. It transforms their lives, gives them structure, goals, father figures, self-respect. Kennedy is seeing the bigger picture now. And you believe this reduces community violence? I know it does. Kids in my program don't join gangs, don't get arrested, stay in school. Because of boxing specifically? Because of what boxing teaches? Discipline, respect, hard work, perseverance? These could be taught other ways. Could be, but they aren't being taught. Kids from rough neighborhoods don't respond to classroom lectures about character. Kennedy understands this challenge. Academic approaches often fail with at-risk youth. They respond to boxing because it's real. Consequences are immediate. You can't fake your way through. Either you're disciplined or you're not. And that authenticity resonates with them. Kids from the streets recognize real versus fake. Boxing is real. Kennedy is beginning a fundamental shift in perspective. Senator, can I ask what you know about my background? Heavyweight champion, fought Ali Trilogy, Philadelphia native. I grew up poor, South Philadelphia. Father abandoned the family. Could have gone the wrong direction easily. Personal story. Kennedy listens intently. Boxing saved my life, gave me discipline, purpose, a way out of poverty. How specifically? Taught me to work hard, respect authority, handle frustration without exploding, persevere through pain. And those lessons applied beyond boxing? To everything: marriage, business, raising children, community work. Kennedy sees the connection between personal development and boxing training. So your argument is that boxing builds character. Boxing reveals character, then builds it stronger. What's the difference? You can't hide who you are in the boxing ring. It shows your true nature immediately. And then, good coaches help you improve what needs improving, fix weaknesses, develop strengths. Kennedy is fascinated by the psychological development aspect. This is very different from the common perception of boxing. Common perception is based on professional boxing entertainment. Youth programs are completely different. How different? Youth boxing focuses on fundamentals, fitness, character. Professional boxing focuses on entertainment, money, knockouts. But don't youth programs lead to professional careers? Maybe 1%. 99% just become better people. Kennedy hadn't considered this distinction. So, boxing for most kids is character education, not career preparation. Exactly, like football teaches teamwork, but most players don't go professional. Perfect analogy. Kennedy understands athletic development versus professional careers. Senator, you mentioned wanting to help underprivileged youth. Top priority. What programs currently work best? Kennedy considers. Many programs struggle with engagement, retention, results. Honestly, we're looking for more effective approaches. Youth boxing works. Proven track record, measurable results. What kind of results? Graduation rates, arrest rates, drug use rates, employment rates, all improved dramatically. You have data? 15 years of programs in North Philadelphia. I can show you the statistics. Kennedy is interested in evidence-based policy. Data matters. Would you be willing to present to a Senate subcommittee? Surprising request. Joe hadn't expected a political opportunity. If it helps kids, absolutely. We're always looking for effective youth programs. Evidence suggests boxing might qualify. Complete perspective shift in 15 minutes. Senator, what changed your mind? You showed me boxing as an education tool, not violence promotion. Completely different framework. Most people see only the surface level. Politicians especially. We see headlines, not programs. Statistics, not individual stories. Kids need programs that actually work, not programs that sound good. Kennedy recognizes this political truth. Boxing sounds controversial, but works effectively. Exactly. Would you rather have a program that sounds good or a program that saves lives? Easy choice for Kennedy. Results matter more than perception. 3 months later, Kennedy introduces a bill funding youth boxing programs nationwide. He calls it the Character Development Through Athletic Discipline Act. Senate colleagues are surprised. Kennedy has historically opposed boxing. Now, he's advocating federal funding. Kennedy explains during his floor speech, "I learned that preventing violence sometimes requires teaching controlled violence. Boxing programs reduce street violence by providing structured alternatives." The bill passes with bipartisan support. Republicans like athletic development, Democrats like violence prevention. Joe testifies before the Senate subcommittee. He presents data from Philadelphia programs, explains the difference between professional entertainment and youth development. Senators are impressed by the statistics, personal stories, community impact evidence. Kennedy becomes boxing's strongest political ally. He visits programs, meets coaches, understands grassroots impact. The media is confused by Kennedy's boxing advocacy. Liberal senators supporting violent sport seems contradictory. Kennedy explains in interviews, "Real liberalism means helping people improve their lives, not protecting them from effective solutions." But isn't boxing inherently violent? Boxing is controlled application of natural competitive instincts. Street violence is uncontrolled destruction. So you're saying boxing prevents violence? I'm saying evidence shows boxing programs reduce community violence significantly. Data-driven liberalism. Kennedy applies the same analytical approach to boxing as other social programs. 2 years later, youth boxing programs are operating in 30 states with federal funding. Crime rates drop in participating communities. Kennedy visits Joe's gym in Philadelphia. He watches kids training, speaks with parents, sees community impact firsthand. "This is remarkable," Kennedy tells Joe privately. "These kids are completely focused, respectful, disciplined. Boxing gives them something to work toward, structure they crave. And their families? Parents see kids coming home tired from training instead of staying out late. Grades improve, attitudes improve." Kennedy sees comprehensive community benefit beyond individual character development. When Kennedy runs for president in 1980, Joe campaigns with him. Unusual alliance, liberal senator and boxing champion. "Why do you support Ted Kennedy?" a reporter asks Joe. "The man listened to evidence, changed his mind when facts showed he was wrong." That's leadership. Kennedy loses the primary to Carter, but his friendship with Joe continues. Kennedy keeps supporting boxing programs throughout his Senate career. When Joe retires from boxing in 1981, Kennedy speaks at the ceremony. "Joe Frazier taught me that surface appearances can be deceiving. Boxing looked like violence promotion, but proved to be violence prevention." Kennedy continues, 15 minutes of conversation changed 30 years of assumptions. That's why listening matters more than talking." The audience includes politicians, boxers, community leaders, different worlds united by evidence-based policy. Joe's final words, "Senator Kennedy showed me that politicians can learn, change, grow. Not all of them, but the best ones can." Their partnership creates a model for evidence-based social policy. Examine programs by results, not perceptions. Youth boxing programs continue expanding through the 1980s and 1990s. Thousands of kids benefit from the Kennedy-Frazier collaboration. When Ted Kennedy dies in 2009, Joe speaks at the memorial service. Senator Kennedy was willing to be wrong, willing to learn, willing to change. He saved thousands of kids by supporting boxing programs he originally opposed. Joe continues, 15 minutes of honest conversation in 1977 created 30 years of effective policy. That's what leadership looks like. The story becomes legend in political and boxing circles. How evidence can overcome prejudice, how listening can change minds, how unexpected alliances create effective solutions. The Kennedy-Frazier partnership proves that surface disagreements often hide deeper agreements. Both men wanted to help kids. They just disagreed about methods until evidence showed what actually worked. 15 minutes of honest conversation, a lifetime of effective policy. Kids saved from violence by a program that teaches controlled violence. Politics at its best. Boxing at its most beneficial. Two men finding common ground despite different backgrounds. That's what happens when politicians see beyond the surface, when champions share deeper truth. Real solutions emerge from real understanding. Kennedy learned that boxing isn't the violence problem. It's the violence solution. Joe learned that politicians can change when presented with evidence. Together, they changed thousands of lives. 15 minutes that rippled forward for decades. Surface assumptions overcome by deeper reality. Violence prevented by teaching controlled violence. Liberal senator and boxing champion finding shared mission. That's the power of honest conversation between people who care about results more than perceptions. Kennedy and Frazier. Different worlds, same goal. Evidence-based partnership that saved lives. 15 minutes that changed everything.